Hey, hey, here we are. It's Saturday evening, 8 o'clock, and time for Gaijin 50 Plus live stream. Here I am this evening with my good friend Carl. How you doing, Carl?
Good. How you doing, Ed?
Oh, hanging in there, enjoying the weather. How about you?
I was inside all day, so I saw on my watch that it was 15 degrees. So I'm like, okay, that's 59. Hey, that's pretty good
Yeah,
for February.
yeah,
But
not bad.
yeah.
Mm.
So you
Mm.
walked around today?
I had to go to Yokohama today. Not
Hmm.
Yokohama. What's that? What is the name of that place? Something Bit. On the KQ line out of Yokohama, Kabe or not anyway.
Yeah, anyway, someplace
Yeah,
near
yeah,
Tokyo and Yokohama.
yeah. Some friend of mine had some event going on, and I promised that I would go, even though I had this to do. But so
Hmm.
I have to be more careful of my. People say, "Hey, why don't you do this?" And I say, "Yeah, okay," and then end up regretting it when the time comes to do it. So, um,
I'm not equipped to do this on my own, so uh, I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe
yeah.
in the future.
Do we have anybody here today? Let me see the
I s-
comments. Yeah, it seems like we only have one person watching. Terrible. Where's our
the one
viewers?
person might be me because I've got
Could
YouTube open
be.
in the other screen
Could
here.
be. Well,
Everybody's
I
out
hope I
enjoying the nice weather.
could be, or I hope I didn't screw up when I scheduled it. That's always my fear. Oh, did you notice? Were you? Some people noticed. I did a
Hmm.
video the other day about I think it was the fire at my house.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah. And so what happened is I record it using my camera, and then I transfer the file from my camera over to my computer, and then I edit it and take things out and switch things around, and then I upload the edited file to YouTube. So the
Hmm.
other day, and yeah, there's Rich. I think Rich was one of the first ones to see it. Was I think
Hmm.
somebody said, "Hey, you uploaded the unedited file." So there I was on YouTube going, "Oh, start again."
So
And
like
it was,
they got to see behind the curtain. Like
yeah,
they got to see the Wizard of Oz pulling all the levers and stuff.
the real the real mush mouth here.
Hmm.
Okay, Rich, thank you for stopping by. Sound is good. That I'm happy to hear that because
Yep.
um, I was telling Carl just a little while ago. I'm using a different setup. I got a This is my stage mic that I'm using, and I've got new
Hmm.
headphones. Went out and bought them just about an hour ago, and I've got a nice microphone plugged into a good interface. So USB interface. So this is what it's going to be like. Actually, I've got one more thing coming in from Amazon tomorrow for this microphone. Because as I told you before, since this is a stage mic, I got to stay close to it because if I go away, you stop hearing it, I think, right? So
I can hear the volume difference for sure.
right. So there's a attachment that you put into the cable that boosts the signal, which will give me a little bit more leeway as far as movement. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know. Should we? Well, okay. Let's keep going until about the 10-minute mark, and we could just sit here and chat. What did you do this week, Carl? Anything exciting? Any only in Japan experiences this week? Now this is something I'm just suddenly throwing at.
Right, right. So yeah, that's why it really looked like I'm like scratching. Went to the doctor a few times. I've got a sore back that I go for rehab, and that's nice. I always enjoy the rehab sessions. Um, Came to the office, did some proofreading, which is my job. Um, had a couple of Japanese lessons. I'm still sort of well. I still take online Japanese lessons, and
Oh, really?
I it's like it's not like random teachers. It's like, okay, this person and then that person. And yeah, I always enjoy having conversations. And then because it's somebody that I know and, like I speak Japanese pretty well. So we talk about things like looking for a job um, or for example, I watch a lot of Netflix videos and grab vocabulary that I'm not super familiar with from the Netflix videos. And yeah, it's fun. So I enjoyed talking with my teacher this week too. So.
Hmm. So you're talking about job hunting,
Mhm.
which is something that I don't have to worry about very much these days, thank goodness. But I'm wondering, how is the job market these days in Japan? Is it good or?
Well, okay. So like I said, I speak Japanese pretty well. I can read and write, or mostly read Japanese. And I registered on a website called Duda, which is like basically for Japanese people. There's like BizReach and Indeed. There's like a handful of these online websites. I think that's the sort of the main way that people search for jobs. And
Uh-huh.
they send me about 10 emails a day with sort of links after links of jobs that they think, based on the information that I put in, is a good match for me. But to be honest, all the jobs are like 300,000 yen a month or something. And
Uh,
to be honest, it's like $1,500 a month. It's like 20,000 bucks a year. Now, obviously, I live in Japan. I don't have to pay American prices in restaurants and so forth. But it's it's hard to it's so one is they're really looking for Japanese people. I think the one is the majority of the jobs are for Japanese people, and maybe I could do some of them, especially if a job where they want a Japanese person who speaks really good English. Well, maybe I speak good enough Japanese where uh, I could do Japanese and the English, but the the compensation is pretty modest, let's say, given the cost of living. So,
do you think
and
do you think it's possible
yeah,
for a foreigner to get a job in a Japanese company?
well, so you've worked in a Japanese company, as we
Yeah,
talked about before. Like you had like the
yeah,
paper company, and
right.
I've worked in a heavy industry machine manufacturing company back in the 90s. Um, I think that I mean, so my job had to do so I'm not an engineer, I'm a CPA, I'm not, I don't have any, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any of those skills. My main skill is my language skill, including what I think is quite good English and also very, very good Japanese for a foreigner. I'm not a native speaker, but I keep saying it. But anyway, I'm quite good. Um, but I think the job market for somebody with my particular set of skills is there's not a lot of like there's not a lot of, oh, we need somebody just like Carl. So it's like you don't need Japanese, or like is as long as you can get your find your way around Tokyo, that's enough. But we want you to teach English. But then you're competing against the people from maybe not just the states, or the people are just out of college, and now that's like 200,000 uh, a month. I have the feeling that if you have some specific skills, like you can code, or uh, you're a content creator, etc., I think then Japanese would augment that and make it easier to work with. So, like in a way, like I've been working in publishing, and um, even though my job was to work on English educational materials, the fact that I was good at Japanese made it so that the publishers chose to work with me rather than work with somebody who was also a native speaker but didn't have the same Japanese skills. So,
I had an interesting experience. I think it was just yesterday.
mhm.
I'm going to be doing a video pretty soon on some service that's provided by the Ministry of Justice, Japanese Ministry of
Hmm.
Justice, for
Hmm.
foreigners, and it's a real good one for people to know about. I think I'll be able to have that out in the next day or two. But
Okay.
there was something strange about the website. There was a link that didn't work, and it says, go here for this information. And you click the link, and it took you somewhere else. And so I wanted to have that information on hand where you go for this specific information before I start talking about it. So I called the hotline, and uh, they had they asked me what language do I speak. So I told them English, and they said just a minute. And they put this guy on the line, and I assumed that he was an employee of the Ministry of Justice.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I started talking to him what I wanted, and he goes, wait a minute, I'm just the interpreter. So there was this guy on the phone,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
some young lady who's a Ministry of Justice worker got on a
Hmm.
phone, and the three of us were in a conference call together. And I would speak to him in English, and he would translate to her in Japanese. She would answer in Japanese, which I found to be pretty strange, to tell you the truth. It's the first time I ever encountered that. Usually,
Hmm.
people who are in the English department speak English, or you have to speak Japanese, you know. And I was pretty interested the way that was handled.
So a couple of thoughts. So one is sounds expensive. Um, if they have to hire two people, I don't know what their deal is with whether it's a outside outsourced translator or somebody who's they just translate for whatever things. Um, it makes it slower, but then also had a brilliant point. I forgot what I was going to say, but I would think that AI might be taking over in the not too distant future if there are no privacy concerns. And then finally, um, I guess, in English is the language that lots of people learn. So English is quite a dominant language in Japan after Japanese. But if people are coming from all different countries, you know, all sorts of countries in Asia and Europe, they have to be able to handle many different languages. So they can't just have people who speak English and then that's it. So maybe that's why they have to have interpreters instead of just bilingual staff. I don't know.
Actually, the hotline that I called supports 13 languages.
Yeah.
So
So.
maybe that, but I like other languages I can see it, but I never had. That was my first experience to have an interpreter get on the telephone like that. Usually, like I
Mhm.
said, usually the government people can speak pretty good English. Many of them, yeah. Mm.
I have worked as an interpreter um,
Uh-huh.
for a couple of years, and
Yeah.
there are many things that make it difficult. So, like if you're talking about a new domain that you haven't that you're not super familiar with, then and the other thing is, like if you're in a large meeting and there are multiple people talking at the same time, then it's just chaos.
Yeah,
So.
actually, I could hear the conversation between those two also,
Hmm.
and I could understand everything he said to her and everything she said back to him. I could understand
Hmm.
it perfectly well. Of course, his keigo, his polite
Hmm.
Japanese is much better than mine will ever be. But yeah, like I said, I was pretty surprised at that. I saw a lady one time doing simultaneous interpretation at a meeting,
Hmm.
and she was very skilled at shorthand. So
Hmm.
people would be
Yep.
talking, and she'd scribbling on a page, and then come back, and she was able to cover everything that went on by using shorthand, right?
Yeah,
So
that's I guess shorthand it varies from person to person. Each person sort of develops their own sort of version of shorthand, apparently. I mean, I think there are some general principles, but
hmm
um yeah. So but simultaneous interpreters, that's like they have like an extra brain in there or something. That's like beyond me.
yeah. Yeah.
Rich commented that even the people talking through the interpreter, they need experience in order to make it work well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate it when the person who's like using the interpreter says, "Just say what I said." It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Or
Um,
won't pause, right? Yeah.
yes, right. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, sorry, I've been talking for 5 minutes. Okay, go."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talking about interpreters and foreigners in Japan, I'm going to
hmm
switch things around a little bit here. We've got an
okay,
interesting story that I think would be something that all of us who have lived here for any amount of time can relate to. Let me see if I can. Picon is probably, this may not, yeah, it's okay. Hold on a minute, please.
hmm
See, this is your fault. I hope you know,
it's my fault.
because you arrived early and we were chatting before we came in here today, and I didn't have
hmm
my screen set up.
Okay,
Okay, hold on a minute, please. Wrong one. Bear with me, everyone. We'll be with you in a minute.
sure. If anybody watching, so we're gonna talk about our topics first, I think. But if people
Yeah.
have topics for maybe towards the end that we want to address, maybe they can stick them in the chat.
Okay. Sorry about
Or or,
this.
or if people want to
Uh,
just say hello, then you can type into the chat too.
okay. Why is this not working? Okay, this is the
It's
one.
Murphy's Law.
Well, well. Let's just not get too. This level of professionalism is
You
so wonderful.
you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. There you go. Okay, let me try that one more. And I keep hitting. I think I got to share. No, share this window. Okay, there it is. Add to stage. Let's do it. Okay, I knew I could do it eventually. And no, we're not going to talk about schoolgirl
Right.
attire. We're going to talk
Hmm?
about the 10 most annoying foreign tourist behaviors on trains as chosen by Japanese people. Now, if anybody's, I know we've got a whole bunch of long-term residents stopping by to see us. And as everybody knows, maybe about like once a year, maybe even more, they come out with these surveys, what Japanese people hate about foreigners. And of course, there is also a survey, the top 10 annoying Japanese behaviors on trains as chosen by Japanese people. And that's
hmm
really interesting because, well, anyway, we'll talk about that later. But let's look at them one by one. Okay, technically the top 11. Eating or drinking on the train, chosen by 3.3% of the respondents. Now, this is one of those that I always, when I see it, I always wonder, huh? How true is this? Or is it is it a myth or is it outdated? This thing, even this thing, don't walk down the street eating something. But I see not all Japanese or many Japanese people do it, but I see some Japanese people doing that too. What do you think about this one, Carl? Eating or drinking on the train?
So so I think in general in Tokyo, people don't eat on the train. They might drink from like a 500 milliliter, plastic bottle or something like that. But for the most part, eating and drinking on most trains in Tokyo is minimal. I think there are a couple of
Mm,
exceptions. So one
mm,
is like Shinkansen. Obviously, or at least they used to bring bentos around. So eating on the Shinkansen is like totally normal. And then when I lived in the countryside in Hiroshima, then like if it was like an hour-long trip or something like that, even if it was just a local train, it was just going to be a while. I feel like it was more acceptable to eat and drink on those trains.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Yeah.
and so my experience in Hiroshima, that's like 30 years ago. So it could be that now in Hiroshima they don't do that. So it could be a geographical thing, or it could be a timeline thing.
Well,
What
yeah,
about you, Ed?
I remember back in my day in Fukuoka that there was more eating and drinking on the regular trains. But then again, the regular trains, people rode them for, longer distances through the countryside and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even the commuting train, I mean, I would ride for over an hour to commute to go
Hmm.
teach English and things like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, there was especially drinking, and I mean alcoholic drinks. There was a lot of
Hmm.
people getting fired up on the train. Were did Shinkansen have dining cars when you were here?
Maybe.
Hmm.
I they certainly had meal service. Like they had the person coming through with a card, and you could order the really expensive coffee, or you could get like um, Shinkansen only snacks, or I believe
Yeah,
even like a Marunouchi bento.
yeah,
Um, going back to your comment about alcohol, so like even in Tokyo, usually like if you're coming back home, in the suburbs at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, there's one guy who's got like his tie undone and has like a strong zero or something like that, and
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like, "What? You got a problem with me drinking?"
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah,
there's and people usually like try to distance themselves from the guy if they can.
yeah.
Um,
And
and I would say that's more. I get it could be a foreigner, but I guess just because there's more Japanese people than foreigners in Japan, then my image is like a Japanese guy doing
yeah,
that.
years ago when they had a dining car on the Shinkansen, it was pretty common practice.
Hmm.
Get on the Shinkansen early in the morning. I mean, like sometimes 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, head straight
Hmm.
to the dining car and start drinking beer. And from 6 o'clock in the morning, and I could never figure that out because even when I drank, if I drank during the daytime, that would just, especially, I would never drink in the morning, but even in the afternoon, that would shoot the rest of the day for me. I couldn't see how these guys ever did it. But
That that was one of the
firing up on the
reasons.
train. Hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I sort of gradually stopped drinking. Is like my productivity after drinking is like shot. So
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't want to waste the time.
yeah. Okay, so eating or drinking on the actually, all right. One more thing. Like I said, it's not widespread, but I have seen people, eating, especially ladies. They'll have a bag and they'll
Hmm.
kind of hide it. Yeah, yeah. No big deal eating and drinking. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, they talk about the Shinkansen here. Good, good, good. Sitting on the floor of the train. How about this one?
Uh, that seems so. Like I would be a bit surprised if somebody was sitting on the. I don't know if I was surprised, but I'm like, that's like to me, sitting on the floor is like that's a no-no. Like
Yeah,
you should
yeah,
not be sitting on the floor in the train.
right, right.
Um,
When I used to live in Tochigi, which is north of Tokyo, it's a one prefecture north, or just on the other side of the mountains there, just at the edge of
mhm.
the Kanto Plain, I would say.
Yeah.
And they would the local train there, high school students, Japanese high school students, that was their favorite thing to do, is just sit on the floor. And the worst of them would sit like in front of the door,
Hmm.
and even when a door would open, you'd have to be doing one of these things to get out or get on the train. And the students would just sit there and that was the most audacious sitting on the floor that I ever saw anywhere. And it
And
wasn't by,
were they doing something like playing cards or something? Like what was the
just talking
like for
and yeah.
okay. And I guess it was there. It sounds like it was almost, especially if they were sort of intentionally sitting in front of the door. I mean, I guess the rest of the train there's like seats, so you can't really sit in front of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
sitting on the floor in front of somebody's seat would maybe be worse, but
yeah,
uh, it almost sounds like an act of rebellion or something. It's like I'm going to
yeah.
sit on the floor here, and you're probably not going to say anything. So, bleh.
Yeah, that's actually the way I took it too. Right. I don't think I've ever seen anybody in Tokyo really sitting on the floor. Have you?
Sometimes, well, like I said, like if you come home late at night, there could be
Oh,
drunk people
yeah,
sitting on the floor.
yeah.
Hey, Tokyo Nano's here.
Oh,
Um,
Tokyo Dan, hey guy.
uh, yeah, I would say regardless of nationality, sitting on the floor, like I think so. It would annoy me. I think it'd annoy Japanese people too. I mean, it's kind of common
Okay.
sense.
All right, here you go. Bad manners regarding priority seats. 4.4%.
Yeah. Again, I think I've seen both Japanese. So I guess the feeling is like with priority seats, if there aren't a lot of people, then you could sit there. And I guess once somebody sits there, they don't want to move, even if they're somebody who maybe ought to sit there. I guess I'm thinking more of a Japanese perspective. So maybe foreigners sit there and they just don't care. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
they should give seats up.
Yeah, but I think, all right, I'm going to come out and make a blanket statement. I hope we don't have many Japanese guests. I hope none of my Japanese friends are listening. I think, as far as the priority seats are concerned, many Japanese people have horrible manners. I have seen young people. I saw just today going on the Nambu line. There was a woman with two kids. They were playing their video games. They were standing. They were, like maybe middle school kids. Priority
Mhm.
seats opened up. She goes, "Oh, go sit down." And the three of them sat down and ignored everybody else who got on afterwards and things like that. So I think if foreigners are doing this, I would say it's pretty equally bad for both types
Mhm.
of people. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I, yeah. Again, so a lot of the things on this list, it's not unique to foreigners. So I
yes,
agree.
yes, yes. Okay. And the next one, leaving trash and drink bottles behind on the train. 5.9%.
I obviously people shouldn't do it. I guess. Yeah. Okay. So as the thing says there, so Japan doesn't have trash cans.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, they do, but they're well, as it says, not enough. And so
yeah.
I think Japanese people are more used to it, so maybe they plan better about what to do with their trash, and they're like if you go to a park or something, it'll usually say, "Please take your trash home with you," and because Japanese people grew up like this, then they do it. Whereas Westerners, for example, coming here, they're used to trash cans being all over the place, so. Um, yeah. So anyway, it's bad manners to leave trash on the train. Um, but yeah,
Do you
maybe
do
it's
you
more of a
drive?
foreign thing. Yeah.
Do
Do
you
I drive?
drive? Yeah, I
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah. I drive.
Um, One thing that I used to when I had a place up in Tochigi. I had my,
Hmm.
my my official address was in Tokyo, so I often drove
Hmm.
between
Hmm.
Tochigi, very often, and that meant using the highway. And you get off
Yep.
the highway, and there's always a small traffic jam, so you're stuck in traffic and waiting for the people in front of you to move and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that I noticed, and I could never, ever, ever, ever figure out was that yeah, Japanese people are very conscientious, pick up, taking care of their trash and stuff like that. Of course, there are jerks everywhere, but
I know where
generally
this is going,
speaking,
but yeah,
yeah.
keep going.
But at the exit of highways, like
Hmm.
you'd have these shrubs and trees, and the ground and beneath the shrubs and trees would be filled with empty cans, discarded cans, and all kinds of trash that people evidently had thrown there while they were waiting in traffic. And I could never figure that out. I mean, what's the disconnect between the drivers and Japanese
Hmm.
people in general? Yeah.
So actually, I thought you were going to say like people flicking cigarettes out of the
Oh,
window.
there's that too. But yeah, yeah,
Um, is it that they think that cigarettes are small and therefore it doesn't matter?
yeah,
As a
yeah.
non-smoker, it's easy for me to. Well, I mean, I think even responsible smokers would say, um, you know, that's obviously not allowed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but like if you're in a car, it's like, well, you've got the whole car. Why do you need to throw something? I mean, that's much easier to take it home and then throw it away
right,
in the proper way than
right,
like if you're walking around town or something. So
right, right.
yeah, that's really sad.
I wonder sometimes if drivers have a different mentality of some sort. I don't know. Or maybe, once it's out the window, it's out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I guess this is not related to the train, but going back to smoking, lots of Japanese people have like the little. It's almost like a pouch that it's like a portable ashtray. I think that's I don't want them to smoke in the first place, but rather than putting ashes and cigarette butts everywhere, I'd much
yeah,
rather them do that than
yeah, yeah,
throw stuff on the
yeah,
ground.
yeah. Okay, sitting style. Taking up more space than necessary. I think you have something to say about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like I weigh less than 100 kilos now, but I'm a relatively big guy. Uniqlo doesn't sell my size, or they do, but I have to get anyway. That's not the point. Um, but I can understand that like people don't want to. If I'm bigger than the seat, there's kind of like not much I could do about it. And some like sumo wrestlers, they would fall into that category too. But in general, people like me are bigger than most Japanese people. So if it's like too crowded, that's one thing. Um, I suppose sometimes people might put their bag on the seat next to them. That some I see Japanese people doing that too. Not lots, but some Japanese people do that too. And it's like, hey, these seats are for people when it's full. Um, and yeah, so it's partly size. Maybe it's the foreigners have a different smell than Japanese. Or I've heard people say, like the foreigners, they're like, well, what if they talk to me and I don't want to put myself at risk
Ah,
of being talked to by a foreigner. So they also don't want to sit next to foreigners for that reason too.
if I may interject here, we got a new guest here, Daryl. Daryl and
Yeah.
Tokyo Dan and I are three good friends. Like to have coffee together, have good times, good talk. They've also been here just as long as I have, long, long time. Daryl and I actually were at Sophia University at the same time, so
Wow.
all of us have been around for a while. So I say I want to give Daryl a special welcome. Thanks for coming, Daryl.
Hey,
Okay.
Daryl.
So you're talking
What?
about, not sitting, doesn't want to sit next to the Gaijin. I heard a guy one time was talking about that, and he was talking to his father, and he was mad because somebody didn't want to sit next to him, and his father told him what I thought were very wise words. He said, if somebody doesn't want to sit next to me, I don't care, they can go somewhere else, but if they tell me you got to move, then they got trouble on their hands, which I always thought was pretty
Yeah, I
cool,
mean, it's
right?
like, it's no skin off my nose.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sure. It's the
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Talking on the phone, 10.3%. How about that? Do you talk on the phone on the train?
Uh, of course not. Um, yeah, so I guess if people, so again, what this is Japan. If you're foreign or if you're Japanese, then you shouldn't be talking on the phone. Uh, I guess again, just because there's more Japanese people than foreign people in Japan, I see this among Japanese people more than I see it among foreign
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
But that's that's a numbers game. So
yeah.
uh,
There, there was a guy I knew down in Fukuoka, and he was your typical, I don't give a damn kind of guy, right? I mean, rules,
mhm.
regulations, they're for other people. And I remember another friend called him up one time, and he called him up and he says, "Hey, can you talk?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm on the train."
It's like,
I got
"Don't."
lots of time. So yeah,
Yeah.
nobody. I actually, it is kind of irritating when somebody's carrying on a phone on the train. I wonder though, should it be irritating when somebody talks on the phone if they were talking to another human? But there's something different about it, isn't it? Don't you think?
So the story I've heard, I guess it makes sense, is if there's two people there, you can hear both sides of the conversation so you can follow it. But if it's
Uh,
somebody talking to somebody on the phone, you can't hear the other side, so you have to guess at what the other person's saying. It's like,
there you
well, should
go.
you really be listening at all?
Yeah,
But I've heard that that's something that bugs people. Um,
yeah. Okay, down to number 5. Other. Here's some other stuff.
yeah.
12.1%. Bad manners when boarding and getting off the train. Mm.
Now this one I can see. So Japan is, like for example, during the earthquake in Tokyo, then like the world news was saying how Japanese they weren't looting, as might happen in other countries, and like they would line up in front of the convenience store to buy their bottles of water and stuff like that. Everybody was very well behaved, and I think that's uh, equally true, if not more so, for riding the train. So there's little lines. The train comes to the exact place. Line up here, wait for the people to get off, and then you get on. I think in other places it's just like you keep using your elbows until you get on. Um, but in Japan, it's very organized. And if people aren't aware of that or used to that, then maybe they'll just do like they do at home. So I could see this one as something that's more common with foreigners than with Japanese.
How about the bachans who are want to hurry up and get on the train, eager to get a seat when everybody's still coming
Uh,
off?
I can't. Yeah. So I mean, it's not exclusively a foreign thing,
Yeah, I know. I
um,
know.
but
I'm just saying that because I always laugh at I always laugh at people when they get on a train. Some people, their eyes get really wide and they're sitting there going, where's the seat? Where's the seat?" And then they get
you
off at
know
the next stop. Yeah.
that's probably me. But I guess so. In terms of getting on and getting off, the thing that annoys me the most is when I'm trying to get off, and getting off is supposed to happen before people get on, and
Yeah.
then the people like they squeeze in from the side, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if I get off, I'm going to push you into that gap in between the
Right.
train and the platform.
Right.
So I
Right.
have to wait for you to get on before I get off,
Yeah.
which is not the
Yeah.
way it's supposed to be. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Bad manners when walking through the station. What does this mean? Smooth flow, have signs and arrows, crossing over and walking. Wow, is this for real? Crossing over and walking against the flow or even collision in somebody. Wow. I don't think that I am under the impression that Japanese people don't pay attention to keep to the left, keep to the right, or anything like that. They just
oh, in terms of the escalators, then I think traditionally, at least in Tokyo, it's been stand on the left, walk on the right. But I
mm,
think in recent years, for whatever reason, I think maybe this is especially true in Nagoya. They say no, you should stand everywhere. If you're on the escalator, you shouldn't walk at
yeah,
all.
right.
But I think most of the people still stand on the left and then walk on the right, just like they've been doing for decades.
But I'm not talking about escalator. I'm talking about the general flow of people. It doesn't seem to be any too much rhyme, and especially the stairways. You go to one station and it shows keep to the left, and you go
Hmm.
to a different station, keep to the right, and it all depends what station you. There's one station in Kawasaki Station.
Hmm.
Um, when you come off the Nambu line,
Hmm.
you go upstairs that say keep to the right, and you get to
Hmm.
the top and you walk across, and there's another flight of stairs going down to the same platform, and it's keep to the left. I mean, they've got arrows marked, and I
Yeah.
never can figure out what that's all about, right? If there's a reason or so, I always get the impression that when walking, Japanese people don't really follow any strict conventions, which I always found amusing because everything else in Japan is very set and cut and dried and got to do this because that's the way it is, but not the flow of pedestrian traffic.
Yeah, I guess I couldn't write like computer code, like I couldn't write the algorithm to how to navigate through the station. I'm a little bit taller than the majority of the people, so I have a slightly better vantage point to see where the people are moving and where they're stagnating. So I try to go with the flow, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and
Um,
being a big guy like you, people basically jump out of the way for you, don't they?
I have this phrase I made up. It's called Ameftoshiki, which is American football style. And so, like, if I'm going with a Japanese person, I'm like, okay, I'm the blocker, you're the running back, and so I'll go in front and just follow in the space behind me, and then we'll get through. So
Okay.
that's, I mean, I don't knock people over, obviously, but you know, if I'm walking through, then there's going to be a gap immediately behind me, right? So
Yeah,
that's how
yeah.
we go through sometimes.
I want to take a moment to say a big thank you to Chris English Time for sending us a super chat.
Oh
Yay!
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you, Chris.
thanks.
Yeah, that's very nice of you. Thank you so much
We
for
have
thinking about us.
We've
Yeah,
got 9 people now, but everybody's pretty quiet, so
yeah.
they're
Everybody's so quiet this time around.
enthralled by
Yeah,
the conversation that they have.
or
Nothing
maybe
to complain about.
we don't let them get a word in edgewise, like my mother would say. Right.
Yeah, right.
All right. This is one. This is one.
Hmm.
I'm ready to talk about this one. Not
Okay.
properly holding, setting down bags and luggage. And they talk about the bags and the luggage and where you should put it. They don't talk about the thing. Oh, don't put your bag on the seat and stuff like that. Suitcases, good, but they don't talk about my usual my favorite topic. I'll bring it up later. First, we'll talk about luggage. I think you have a comment about that.
Yeah, I can make 2 comments. So one is like I always have a backpack, and
Mm-hmm.
I I try to avoid crowded trains, so it's usually not an issue for me. But I guess if I was standing, then in theory, you would flip the backpack around so it's in front of you so you can see if it's hitting somebody. If you leave it on your back, then if you turn, you don't know when it's going to hit somebody. Um,
Hmm.
I guess in general, I try to move as little as possible when I'm on the train so that I'm not as likely to hit somebody. But I guess people complain.
Didn't you
The other,
didn't you say
yeah,
that you were told one time you're not supposed to have a?
yeah. Yeah, so that was the backpack. That's sort of like the everyday thing. And then
Oh, okay.
there's one time when I had like an actual suitcase, and I
Hmm.
was sitting down and I had the suitcase sort of like between my legs to make sure that it didn't roll around. It had casters, but there was a guy. He's like, I didn't know what his problem was, but he's like, you know, you shouldn't be bringing that big suitcase on on the crowded train like this. You know, like, what are you doing? I was like, how am I supposed to respond to that? I'm just like,
Hmm.
I'm doing what
Hmm.
I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to get it to not move around. I just kind of ignored
Hmm.
him, and he harassed me for a
Hmm.
while, and then that was it.
Let's
Oh, we
go
got
back to
somebody from Ehime here.
Pardon me. Oh yeah,
We
Ehime Shikoku,
yay!
right? Tokyo.
Yes.
Let's go in order at first. Tokyo Dan says
Hmm.
it wasn't so orderly in the old days, and that's true. And what he's saying is true.
Hmm.
This, especially down in Fukuoka, where I was. I don't know where Dan is referring to, But it was a free for all at the train station. I mean, they used to sell tickets. You know, you go up to the window and you tell
Hmm.
the guy in the window, where you're going, and he'd
Yep.
reach over, pull down a ticket, put it on the thing, and you'd pay and pick up your ticket and leave. And that was never line up and everybody be nice. I had it a number of times where I came up to the window and had my money and was putting it down and had somebody hit my hand out of the way so they could pay and get a ticket because they had to catch a train. Of course, I could
Yep.
understand,
Yep. Yep.
but it wasn't as orderly as it was a lot more of a free. And I had,
Especially
go ahead.
on the Ginza line in Tokyo, it's like goes every 3 minutes. If you miss one, it's like no big deal. But
Yeah, right.
like where you were, maybe it's like once every half an hour.
No,
So
no, 1 an hour.
okay, yeah, I've lived in those places too. But
Yeah.
so the politeness goes away when when time is
Yes, yes,
at the end.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. But yeah, so the Japanese people have, which I don't know if you want to say matured or internationalized, or some of the, a lot of the rough edges have been smoothed out over
I,
the
I
years.
think that the fact that like in Tokyo we can use Suica and Pasmo now, you don't have to buy the ticket, so that process is
Yeah.
eliminated.
Yeah.
Um, and like you don't have to give it to the guy with it going like this.
Yeah.
You remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so because and people can verify the schedule on their phone before they go, so they get
Yeah.
there on time. So I think the system has improved, and then as you said,
Yeah.
people have become more tame.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a go go
Ego five,
a go go yeah a
Ego
go
go,
a
yeah,
go go a go go.
yeah,
He told me last week, I think, and he says slipstreaming is an important skill in Tokyo. I think he's talking about when
yeah. My American
navigating. Yeah,
football running back model,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And there's Chris English time again. Nice to have you here, Chris. And what do we have? No trains in Okinawa, so we don't have experiences like this. Oh, I didn't know. No trains in Okinawa. If you
They got
think
that
about it.
monorail from the airport to
Uh,
Shurijo or something like that.
okay. And we have Ehime in down there in Shikoku. Welcome. And Tokyo Dano says, at my station, it shows a zigzag pattern to follow. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
Ehime says, the old days of on a train in Japanese always approaching me and just blurting out, let's talk English. Yep, that was the good old days. Let's talk English, or excuse me, would you mind if I practice my English conversation with you? You know, and
I had
he's, uh-huh.
so I was in the countryside in Hiroshima, and there was it was like an hour ride, and somebody did that to me, and they came and talked to me, and it became apparent that the person was they had some sort of psychosis or something like that, but they weren't dangerous, so I ended up talking to them, and then
Yeah,
they figured out that I was teaching at the local school. I wasn't like interested in becoming this person's friend, but they came to the school and they got one of the other teachers to say where I lived, and then the guy showed up at my house, and I wasn't too thrilled about that.
mhm.
I
You
mean,
know,
I'm here now, so I'm okay. But
it was annoying when it happened back then, but I sort of miss it too. There was
yeah,
one time. There was one time I was at a train. It was in Hakata Station, and it was stopped. I don't remember why, if it was a scheduled stop or what, but we were sitting in the station, and I was in one of those seats, one of those four-person seats, two,
yep, yep.
two people facing, and I was sitting there, and I was kind of sleeping,
Hmm.
just, and this guy came in and sat. There was nobody else around,
Hmm.
and he
Hmm.
sat on not exactly across from me, but diagonally from
Diagonally
me.
opposite.
He said,
Yep.
and I thought to myself, "Oh God, here we go. This guy wants to speak English, right? So I'm just going to pretend I'm sleeping, and then
Hmm.
he'll leave me alone." So I just kept my head down and my eyes closed. Then he moved to the seat in front of me, and I was just doing the act, and he kicked me in the shins. not hard, but he kicked me in the shins. And I went, oh, and he goes, oh, excuse me. Would you mind if I practice my English with you?
How long ago was this?
Oh, this was way, 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 way back, like in the
Okay.
in the early 70s or mid 70s or something like that,
Okay.
when
All right.
Japanese people were really studying English a lot. And yeah,
The
it was
the
pretty
I,
funny.
before the internet.
Yeah,
Long,
way
long
before the
before the
internet.
internet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. But like I said, irritating back then when it happened all the time. But I kind of miss it too, because you met a lot of cool people that way too. All right. Colin Swainson says Dogs and Demons by Alex Kerr is a great book about Japan. Is if anybody is looking for a new read. I think I've heard of that book. Have
I've
you?
definitely heard of it. I've heard similar glowing reviews. I
Uh-huh.
don't think I've read it.
No, yeah, me neither. But it's a pretty well-known book, right?
Yeah.
And a go go says a go go, right? I've noticed for
Hmm.
myself that looking people in the eyes walking towards you doesn't work well. Eyes down disengages the frontal cortex and allows your subconscious to figure out the navigation. Yeah, there's a guy. I think I mentioned them to you in the past, Carl, and maybe I mentioned it
Hmm.
even here. I did that performance last week with that Elvis guy.
Hmm.
And this Elvis guy, he's an Elvis imitator, and
Hmm.
he is from Aomori. And
Okay.
one of his great talents is not just singing, but he's really good at talking off the cuff and makes
Hmm.
people laugh and enjoying themselves. And he said something that I had never thought of, but then as soon as he mentioned it, I thought, this guy's right. He says, I come to Tokyo. He says Tokyo is a real crowded place, and people are walking along, and everybody's looking at their smartphones as they're walking along. And he says, what I can't understand is you've got Tokyo people, they're walking straight at you, looking at their smartphone, and they don't even look at you, but they move out of the way when they get close to you. And I started thinking about it. He's absolutely right. It's like they have a sixth sense or a radar or some bat sense to, they're sending out high pitched squeals or something like that.
Most of the time, sometimes they do crash, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
I guess I'm not intentionally playing chicken, but my final, like, if they're not deviating, you know, when we get when collision is imminent, I'll just stop. And so, like, I'm not moving. And if they want
Uh,
to avoid me, fine. I mean, I can't remember when anybody ever crashed into me. So if I stop, then we're not going to crash into each other. I guess it works for me.
Yeah, ego goes mentioned too. This may also because you're not paying attention and maneuvers around you. That's true too. And Dan says, yeah, he was in Fukuoka and Tokyo. He said Tokyo back then was wild too. He knows more about Tokyo than I do back then. I was only down in Kyushu. I don't know what was going on in Tokyo.
Mm.
Chris, English Time, Japan. I used to get some Japanese that would talk to me. They really did give a good effort. I always admired their courage. That's true, and it's a good way to improve. You know, um, I respected them for working up the guts to do it, and that actually is a good way for them to improve their English conversation. Is some real life real life contact. Dan says zigzag was a joke. Cut that out, Dan. Okay. And then Dan says, not as bad as in Korea. They'd come through the open windows to get a seat. Yeah, the Korean
Now,
people
is
are.
that a joke?
The Korean people are very feisty, a very feisty bunch of people.
Hmm.
Yeah, and very
Yeah.
energetic and very feisty. Okay. All right. Okay. So, did you know? Did you know
Hmm.
this? This is my favorite story about one of my favorite stories. It's not exactly parallel, so don't come at me and say, "Oh, that's completely different." Perry came with his black ships to Japan and showed
Hmm.
up, and everybody said, "Whoa!" It was like end of Apocalypto or something like that. You know, what is
Hmm.
that? And then these gaijins come in, and the Japanese government right away thought, well, we can't fight these dudes, so et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. Yep.
So some years later, a an American squadron went to Korea. And I don't think it was exactly for the same purpose. There was something going on with a French ship or something like that. And the American squadron went up a river. It might have been the Han River. I'm not exactly sure. Right now, I'm
Hmm.
talking off of memory. So, like I
Sure.
said, don't hold it against me. So they demanded respect from the Koreans, and it ended up that the Koreans massacred all the Americans and sank their boats. So that's what I always think of when I start comparing the two countries. You know,
Oh,
quite
so
quite different.
you're not just saying it wasn't a given that Perry was going to succeed. It just they have different welcoming
Yep,
protocols.
yep, exactly. Welcoming protocols. That's a nice way to put it. Yeah. Okay.
So what's number
Uh,
one? What's number one?
All right, number one. Ta-ran-ta-da. Loud conversations being rowdy on the train.
Well, you and
Okay.
I both watch
Yeah.
YouTube, so that the guys
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
imagining they're on the New York subway. Those guys are annoying. Um,
Yeah.
but
And let's not forget Johnny Somali.
right. But so I feel like so tourists, as opposed to like individual gaijin who are doing their own thing, like you and me, like it's just going to be me. I don't have anybody to just talk to on the train, so I'm going to be silent. Um, but I have the feeling that it's like groups. So like if there's a group of like 4 or 5 ladies who just came from Ocha or something like that, they're just yapping away, yapping away. So again, it's more about the size of the group than of the nationality. But
Mm,
again, it could be like different. What's the word? Different appreciation for Japanese norms. So it could
mm,
be that foreigners
mm,
tend to be
mm,
more. I guess they stand
mm.
out more. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
well,
Well, I don't really hang around, tourist areas that much, but I've always all the tourists that I've ever seen have been pretty well behaved.
mhm,
Some, I've seen some really bad behavior. For
mhm,
example, one day there was this group of about 5 people. They seemed to be part of an extended family, and they were trying to figure out something, deciding where to go or what to do or something, and they just piled all of their baggage right in the middle of the walkway where everybody's walking to and
yep.
fro, and they sat down, and some of them were actually like laying down. And that was probably the worst behavior I ever saw, and I was tempted to say something. Have you ever there's my question. Have you, or anybody, any of our viewers, have you ever seen a misbehaving gaijin and said something to them about it?
I
Mm,
can't. I can't recall when I have done it.
mm,
Um, I've occasionally said like, yeah, "Can I help you find something?" or something like that, but I don't think I've like taken on the role of scolding them.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
How about you?
I was on the way to Fukuoka one time with my wife. And this is another one I think I mentioned to you when I talked to you that one time. I've got permanent damage to my rib cage from my wife constantly giving me an elbow, telling me to shut up. But we were on our way to Fukuoka together, and we were in we were on the Shinkansen, and we were on the 2 seats, and then there were 3 seats across the aisle, and there was a young foreign man and woman, a couple, and they had a big, humongous suitcase. So both of them, each had a seat, and they had their suitcase blocking the third
Hmm.
seat. And the train wasn't full, but I was watching that and I thought to myself, oh, cut it out. They're going to look at that and they're going to say those damn foreigners. And I'm a foreigner too. And I really hated that's when a lot of that was going on before it started going on really bad. So I was just sitting there looking over, and my wife said out of the side of her mouth, don't say anything, because she could see that I was getting ready. So then the train, the next stop was Yokohama or Shinagawa, and it started getting
Hmm.
more and more fuller and fuller. So I was sitting there
So
and I looked at.
did you say
Mhm.
this was the non-reserved seats?
Pardon me?
Did you say this was the non-reserved seats
Yes,
or the reserved?
non-reserved seats. Non-reserved
Okay.
seats.
And so basically people were blocking a seat with a
Right,
suitcase.
right.
Okay.
And
Yep.
and so I was sitting there, and then finally I looked over at the guy and I said, did you buy 3 tickets?
Hmm.
And he goes, oh, no, but I didn't know where to put my suitcase. And the
Hmm.
Japanese person behind me, who spoke really good English, jumped in, and she said, oh, well, you know that there are places at the end of the car where you can leave your big suitcases. And I goes, oh, okay. And he moved. And
Well, so if I, as an American, I would be, I know Japan is like super safe, but I wouldn't want to leave my luggage in a place where I couldn't see it
that's true.
because like it might not be there when I get back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I believe that now they've changed. I haven't been on the Shinkansen for a while, but I believe that now you can't take your suitcases in the car with you. You have to pay an extra fee for a
Yeah.
suitcase.
Yeah. They've changed the rules. They've tightened up on it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Let's go. Dan says no joke on the Korean people jumping through the windows. Okay. I
Mhm.
was on the Shinkansen talking with a Japanese friend. A Japanese person used Google Translate with his speaker turned up to tell us not to talk on the train. That's pretty good. But
So
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so I'm not sure if it's only on Western Japan, but there's a silent car. Um, maybe that was the, I want to say the Rail Star. Maybe that's like an eight
Mm.
passenger train, and one of the cars is silent, and you're like nobody's supposed to talk. But I don't think
Oh.
that. So the fact that there's a silent car kind of implies that the other cars are not silent cars, and therefore, I mean, I guess it depends how loud Rich was talking. But I would think that
Mm.
an ordinary conversation would be something that the conductor's not going to like say, "Hey, you should shut up." So
Hmm.
I think the guy was overstepping his bounds by
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, and the Shinkansen, I don't think silence on the train applies to the Shinkansen. People have, I mean, loud, loud. I don't know how loud you were talking there, Rich, but but loud, boisterous conversations I don't think are good. But I think people have normal conversations on the
But
Shinkansen.
it's especially for something long, and you like it could be two or three people going on a business trip
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
So I know you're supposed to go to the end of the car for like taking cell calls and stuff like that. So
yeah. Okay, and we got another one coming up here. I have noticed more young Japanese people doing Zoom/Teams calls at cafe, etc. recently. It's annoying for me as a long-term foreigner who is now an easily agitated Japanese resident. At cafes, meaning restaurants and things like that. Yeah,
hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that I guess talking on the phone in a cafe or restaurant is just as annoying as talking on the phone in a train, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
Although I think in like people meet other people in cafes, so they talk to each other. So like if you go
Yeah.
to a crowded Starbucks, I mean, it's going to be pretty noisy, right? So if you want it
Yeah.
quiet, you kind of have to have something like headphones with
Yeah.
music to
Yeah.
block everybody else out.
But would you do a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call in a cafe?
To be well, I mean, I have this place, so I don't have to do that. But if I was out somewhere and I needed to make a call and I wasn't worried about the, like company secrets getting out or something like that, yeah, I think I would.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Hmm.
you would that, what about you? Would you say that's kind of a no-no, or?
I haven't actually given. I don't think I would ever do it, because
Okay.
I would be self conscious about the people around me listening to what I was saying, which is
Hmm.
probably silly, but yeah, if I had to make a Zoom but then again, like you just said, I'm in the same situation as you. If I have to make
Hmm.
a Zoom or Teams call, I've got my life is set up where I could find a suitable place to do it easily, right? Rather than
Yeah,
having to
right.
do it in a public place. Yeah. Daryl, my good friend Daryl, what does he say? Most bizarre misbehaving Japanese. A 20-something girl who tried to get on the train as the doors were closing, banging on the door and roundly cursing the conductor as the train pulls out. Woo! Well, she must be one of a kind. Yeah.
Actually, so in Tokyo, as you know, they've been adding, I guess they call them home door. So it
Hmm.
used to be that it was just the edge of the platform and then the train, and there was nothing in between. So like if somebody wanted to, you know, do something dastardly, they could push somebody off the platform in front of the train.
No.
Now they have, like barriers. So the door on the platform opens, and then the door on the train opens. And now they have it so that I think it's harder to like squeeze yourself onto the train while the door is closing because of the two-door system. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm.
yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
um, we've all, like they say, never run for the train. But again, if it's like 15 minutes to the next train, there's a lot of people who want to run for the train.
Yeah, in my old age, I've taken to the habit of leaving early. That way I don't have
Sure,
to
that's
run. I don't have to
yeah,
push
yeah.
people out of the way. I just, yeah, okay, you want to go, go, Yeah.
I, I think when I did this once with, I think it was an English conversation student who I was probably had just finished a lesson with in Starbucks or something. And
Yeah.
then I was like, oh, we should run for the train. And she's like, あなたはせっかちな人ですか? So like,
Yeah.
are you an impatient person?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tokyo Dan, I know he used to do this. Nope, but I once threw a misbehaving Japanese guy off the train. Wow. Dan used to be a muscle guy, so okay, and he wasn't afraid to use them, right? Okay. Wit, I never saw a Japanese girl. I sure she wasn't Chinese. Uh-oh, uh-oh. We'll just move on from there. Are you two expats or immigrants? And then he said expats and legal immigrants. Uh-oh, we don't talk about that. We don't do that here, Dan. We'll go back here. Are you two expats or immigrants? That's a good question. What do you consider
So
yourself
my
there?
understanding of an expat is usually somebody who is sent from a company to temporarily live in a foreign country,
Uh,
and they get their housing paid for, and they get a big company bonus and a company car and all that kind of stuff. That's my impression of an expat, and I'm not an expat.
uh,
Am I an immigrant? Well, I've been here for decades, so from that perspective, yes. Uh, in the States, immigration is kind of like a route to naturalization, but I don't think that that's in the cards for lots of people who come to Japan. So I'm here for the long run, if that answers the question.
we were talking about something in this regard before we started up today there, Carl.
Mm.
And people like you and me who have been here for such and such a long time, do you ever second guess or think
Yeah.
back? Well, gee, if I had, taken that other fork in the road, or what's the old Yogi Berra thing? When you come to a fork in the road, take it. But,
sounds
but
sounds very Yogi Berra.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So
that's a little
tell me
before my
about.
time, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think last week, I forget who it was, but somebody mentioned something about the opportunity cost of coming to Japan. And when I first came to Japan, the yen was strong, the jobs were more plentiful than they are now, especially if your skill was, you spoke some Japanese and you were a native English speaker, then sort of English teaching was, reasonably lucrative. Probably not quite as lucrative as when you first showed up, um, but yeah, I mean, I think we both have a kind of similar experience where we went back to the States for a little while and tried it out and then came back to Japan. Um, I do sometimes think about what my life would have been like if I hadn't come to Japan when I did. Um, I don't really have any answer because, my adult life is basically almost all here in Japan. Um, but sometimes, I guess, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Like now, if I think, like, oh, my classmates, they're all so the time I've spent studying Japanese, and it's a lot, that could have all been used for something else. Maybe I could have played more video games, which would have been a waste of time, but I could have also done, like developed a different profession. Um, and I think life would be very different. It's hard to say exactly how different it would be, and it's because I don't know what that life is. It's hard to say whether it would have been better or not. Um, but yeah, what about you, Ed?
Well, I like everybody. I think everybody always second guesses their life. And just to give you a little bit of background, as as everybody may know, I've talked about it in other videos and stuff like that. I came here in the military in the U.S. Army, but before I came and entered the army or joined the, you see, I'm talking to like a Japanese. Entered the army, right? I joined the army. Um, I was accepted to go to the University of Illinois, and I was going to study administration of criminal justice,
Mm-hmm.
which would have, and I look at that and I say to myself, the way police work has become in the United States, thank goodness I didn't. That worked out that way. But I went in the army and et cetera, and I ended up here. And you think back, all right, one thing that I miss about the United States, or the things I miss about the United States, there aren't many, but there are a few. Number one, turkey dinners. Christmas and Thanksgiving and the whole 9 yards. Yes, you can get a turkey dinner in Japan at a hotel or something like that, but it's not the same, I think, right, in
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
humble
Sure.
opinion. And I really miss those, like my mama used to make turkeys, right? So that I miss, and also I miss the space, the amount of space, living space
Sure.
that
Yep.
Americans have. I mean,
Having a
massive.
yard,
Yeah,
having
yeah,
having three bathrooms in your house,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
having a
yeah,
separate living room and a family
yeah,
room.
yeah. The last time I was in the States, I went to Tucson, Arizona, and stayed in a motel, and that, man, that was like a one
You got
DK.
lost in the room.
Yeah, I had a kitchen and stuff like that. The only thing
Yeah.
missing was a washlet, but anyway, I really miss that about the United States. And all right, one more thing: Americans know how to use free time, relaxation time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how to have fun and go skiing and golfing and enjoy life. I really miss that. However, I also am pretty sure that if I had stayed in the United States, this is similar to something that Tokyo Dan just wrote, I would probably weigh about 350 pounds like my brother, and probably have all kinds of medical maladies that I don't have now because I don't weigh 350 pounds. Even living in Japan, I once got as high as 105 kilos, which is 210 plus 21, 226. And, big, and, walking across the room to get something out of the refrigerator had me breathing heavy those days. And it was right about then when I decided, well, this ain't going to hack it. And I decided to quit smoking, quit drinking, and do a lot of other stuff. But anyway, I'm sure that I would have, because when I did go back to the States, I went back to the States with my wife. There was one point where I started to hate Japan. I've mentioned this before. The progression of the expat, the honeymoon phase, and then you go, oh, I hate it here. And I went back to the States, and I immediately put on, like 15 or 20 kilograms of, eating Hostess
Sure.
Twinkies and drinking coffee and stuff like that. So I'm sure that would have happened to me. So in that way, I feel very, very fortunate. And the safety factor in Japan is what is a wonderful thing. But I always wonder, well, what if I had gone to school and gotten a degree? Would I have become a cop, a local cop? Would I have joined the FBI? Would I have done this? Would I have done
You might have
that?
ended up in Vietnam. You never know.
Might have ended up in Vietnam too. Yeah, yeah. Boy, 4 years in the army and I never got to Vietnam, which to this day I thank my lucky stars. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Dan and Daryl were also in the military at that time, and I don't think any of us made it to Vietnam, thank goodness. But yeah, I think about it. I think about it all the time. And then there's the other question: if you had it to do all over again in 2026. Sorry about that. I just leaned on my. If you had it all over to do it in 2026, would you come to Japan now, Carl?
So this is like, if somebody asked me, knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
I think when I came in the 90s, it was a better time to come than now. I guess there were more people, more young people. There were more jobs. I guess now in a way, because the internet, and back then there was no internet, you were more connected to back home. There's Amazon now, there wasn't before. So like so that you can get stuff more easily. But I think that the job market now is more challenging. Whether you find a job, well, obviously you have to have a job to come here to work. But even if you find a job, I think that you're not as likely to. Like I saved money every month when I first came, but I think people coming now, it'll be more challenging to save money as a young person. So I would probably say the same kind of things my parents told me when I came to Japan. It's like, oh, maybe give your career, like work on your career a little bit more before jumping ship and going to Japan. What do you think?
Yeah, but I think, you reach a certain age and it gets hard to, you don't have the leeway or the flexibility that you do physically and mentally. Yeah. So, I think if you start building more of a career back at home, then you get stuck there, right?
Well, yeah. So probably you could get stuck at home, or you could get stuck in Japan.
Right.
So
Right.
as I think I said maybe last time. So I met this guy, this Indian guy in Japan, who came with the American company who we were meeting with, and make a long story short, listening to his story, how he got stuck, and he didn't realize it until years after he realized he was never going back to India. That was the thing that I wanted to try going back so that I wasn't stuck. And then once I went back, I realized I wanted to be in Japan. So
yeah,
I came back. So.
You'd rather be stuck in Japan than stuck in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've lived in multiple places, you're always going to miss the people, the things in that place. You know, unless you just have your own private jet and you could go wherever you want, whenever you want. But if you're not that, then you're always going to miss out on something. So it was like, you never leave home. Is that the way that you don't feel like you miss out on stuff? I don't think so. But you know, it's like it's part of life, and you know, you keep in touch with the people that you value, and you visit when
Yeah.
you can.
In that regard, you know, I'll tell you another. This is a military story. I don't know if Dan and Daryl had the same experience, but um, you know, I was out at the end of the Aleutian chain, you know, keeping an eye on the Soviet Union Soviet Union at the time, and in Japan we were keeping an eye on another nearby country. But I mean, it was really, especially up in Alaska, it was really interesting work. It was like frontline Cold War kind of work, and something was happening every day, and it was so exciting. And then you live. I was there for 16 months, and then I took about a month or so off, and I went back to my neighborhood and met up with my old friends. And it was so, I found that their way of life was so boring, right? They were mostly interested in wondering where does the next six pack come from, you know? And I really hated it when I was there. Mm.
I do feel like when I like used to go back every year for vacation and see friends and family back in my hometown, and you know, it's been years, so like lots of people have moved on and in various ways. But I would go back and they're like, "Oh, welcome back from Japan. How you doing?" And I would start talking about like my experiences in Japan, and within 5 minutes, for the most part, people were like no longer interested. So
Mm.
um, I guess it was a little bit sad that you know people weren't interested in my life in Japan. So
Mm. Mm.
um, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chris asks again. No, the reason is that I fell in love with Japan and its essence. Does that make sense? Yeah, I mean, I think all of us in some way fell in love with Japan, the way, you know, the essence. Yeah, yeah, I guess you could say the essence, the way they do things, the way they live. It's just compatible with our own feelings, right?
I
Eh,
might articulate it a little differently. You know, it's like I find, you know, like I made good friends here, had lots of interesting conversations. I can appreciate the safety. I can appreciate the food. Um, and one more thing that I often go back to is, you know, going to the grocery store in the States, that's like a pretty mundane thing. But when I first came to Japan, going to the grocery store was an adventure every time. So uh, yeah, that's the kind of thing that made living overseas and in Japan in particular kind of exciting.
Yeah, I share that. We've talked about this before between the two of us, and I share that feeling absolutely. The one thing I like about living in Japan is, even to this day, every day's an adventure. I mean,
Mhm.
you're met with certain challenges, language challenges, and custom challenges, and the social challenges that you just wouldn't have if you were
Filling
just
out
living
forms
in.
in Japanese, uh,
Yeah,
submitting documents.
yeah. And Daryl says this is a good point. He says Japan for me has been 55 years, some pain, yes, but mostly unbelievable fun. Oh, Tokyo Dano. Sorry, excuse me. Let me go back to I wanted to. I'm going to talk about what Dan says because he's right too. Daryl says in the 70s, coming to Japan was like going to a backwater emerging market. In the 80s, Japan was hot and you came here to make your career. In the 90s, people were abandoning stagnating Japan. That's a pretty good yeah, when I first came here too, right, in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, Japan was considered quite a backwater. Yes, it was. Yeah. Kind of it was less of a backwater than I had expected,
Mhm.
to tell you the truth. Yeah. But it was considered, and it was in a way, in many ways. Yeah. Let's go back to Dan. Dan. Thank you, Daryl. And Dan says, Japan has, for me, been 55 years, some pain, but mostly unbelievable fun. Even the bad times were never, ever boring. It has been full on living life to its fullest. I say my blessings every day. I got to agree with you, Dan. You're absolutely right. And we've discussed this kind of thing before, Dan and Daryl and I. Uh, Dan was talking one time, and I think he was right. He said, "Yeah," he says, "I see these people in the Philippines or in Thailand talking about living the expat life and how good it is." He says, "Actually, we're doing the same thing here, and it's just as much fun here as it is over there. Though a lot of people don't talk about it in those terms very much." Japan is often seen as expensive or difficult, but yeah.
I did have a friend who he was, he had retired in the States, and he was, successful, and he was thinking of coming. He had lived in Japan previously, and he was thinking of coming back to Japan and doing something and kind of essentially retiring here, which is not really one of the categories that Japan is not really. There's no such thing as a retirement visa, for example. But he ended up going to Thailand, and he likes it there. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you have money, then many things become possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wonder, talking about money, I wonder if Japan is ever gonna get its mojo back. Daryl is quite an expert at this kind of thing. If he wants to chime in here, we'd appreciate it. But this Takaichi is talking about doing this and doing that, and of course, some of the mainstream media, as is their wont, will is talking it down, and oh, you can't do that because this is going to happen. You can't. I don't know enough about finance or economics to say one way or the other, but
I think it's like a catch-22. It's like, so if you borrow money now and spend now, you might stimulate the economy now, but then you're going to have to pay for it in the future. I mean, in a way, I think that's to a certain extent something that happened with COVID, like around the world, and that's some of what's creating the current situation. Um,
mm,
but but sometimes in order to get to the future, you need to survive get to the distant future, you need to survive the immediate future. So even if it's like going to be negative in the future, sometimes you have to bite the bullet. And like it's way above my pay grade as to figure out
mhm.
what's the best policy. So I don't know.
Yeah, they it seems like governments all over have lost this feeling that it has to be paid back someday. That seems to have gone out the window somewhere along the line. Balanced budgets, I don't think are even a consideration these days, are they?
I can't say that I can name a country that does have, like Japan used to, but not now. I mean, Japan's gone all the way the other way now, right?
Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
like three years worth of GDP as the Japan's national debt, something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Which,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, it's the highest in the world.
Daryl gave us an answer here. The key word is productivity. Technological innovation in the US driving productivity, but Japan's is extremely low. Hmm. Yeah, there's always this talk, Japan is talking about, well, we got to improve productivity and change our working style and do this more efficiently. And what did the government implemented or created a agent department of digital digitization or something
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah,
that.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the My Number cards are supposed to make things more efficient, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
traceable and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel that your load or your time tax owed to the government is getting any lighter? I mean, I have to go here and do this, and I have to go there and do that,
Oh,
and
you
I
mean
have
like
to.
in terms of like paperwork?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so we just had the Kakute Shinkoku, like the February 15th was the first day you could do it, and mine's done, and didn't have to go to the. I guess you would mail it in the past, and now it's done online with your My Number card. So I guess it's being reduced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I guess it'll improve over time as well. So I guess in general,
Mm-hmm.
just like would you say using Suica and Passmo is more efficient than buying tickets?
Once again?
It's not government, it's trains, but like
Yeah.
Suica and Passmo, it's clearly more efficient than,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So I think
Yeah.
technology is making things more efficient.
And I was on the Nambu line today,
Yeah.
and they made an announcement that I had never heard on a train before. I've
Hmm.
heard it on buses, and I've heard it on short haul things, but they specifically said this is a so-called one-man train, meaning
Hmm. Yep.
just
Yep.
a driver, right? Nobody else,
Yeah.
just the driver. Which that's efficiency. They used to have all kinds of people running around the train, right? But the train seems to be, but still there's. Let's look at what Rich said. Rich says Japan needs to get rid of the senpai kohai system. Learn that time is money and pay overtime for every 35 hours at work. Yeah, there's still work is still treated pretty lightly, isn't it, by companies? They don't want to really pay for.
Yeah. The same kind of work, like for example, when I talked to nurses in the hospital a couple of years ago, it'd be like in the States, you'd be making like $100 an hour. Here in Japan, you make 2,000 yen an hour. That's like
Mm,
six
mm,
times, or
mm,
whatever it works out to be. Um,
mm.
and yeah, I think wages are like, when I first came to Japan in 30 years ago, I felt like the wages were like pretty similar. Now I feel like they're worlds apart.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my managers the other day, and it was just a conversation. It wasn't a meeting or anything like that. And I said, "Hey, did you see that the Japanese government is urging companies to raise salaries by at least 5%?" He looked at me, turned around, and walked away without saying a word. So
Uh, Sorry, he just wasn't interested. I mean, or you're saying like 5% is peanuts?
he didn't want to talk about it at all. I mean, he was
So
saying no.
this
He
is your
his nuance was 5%. No way, Jose. Kind of thing.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's at least that's the way I read the room, right?
Hmm. Sure.
Okay. No, we got a new commenter here, Noel. Well, I'm not
She.
even going to put. Okay, Noel.
Yeah.
Takaichi and her printing machine will turn the yen into toilet paper. Could be. You never know, right?
Yeah. So I think you were in one of the articles that we're not actually gonna
Yeah.
talk on. So like like when they lower taxes, that's the kind of spending, right?
Yeah.
And she's promised. She's talked about um, lowering consumption tax on food, and that's in a way that's running the printing machine, and international experts are kind of advising against it because it's going to run up the deficit, and that's going to raise interest rates and cause the currency to weaken even more.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, so well, who knows? But I think the finance minister, I don't know that much about her, but she seems like she doesn't she's not whimsical. She seems like a tough cookie. So I have the feeling that it's got to be approved before they start spending money. But Takaichi does have the reputation of being looser monetarily uh, than the alternatives were.
Daryl says something about my number card here. Linking my number cards to health insurance, pension benefits, driver's license is a bureaucratic nightmare. Half of the people still resist full conversion to my number. That's true. But I heard like 80% of Japanese people have a my number card, but whether they fully convert. Yeah. And, there's no real legal pressure or obligation to
Mhm.
convert. They always have well, you should do it by September 4th. But if you don't, you could always do this, kind of
I
thing.
think with the health insurance, what was it like in December? That was a time when your old health insurance card, basically, unless you had a specific exemption, it would no longer be accepted. Um,
Hmm.
so I waited for them to get the bugs out, and that's when I converted. So,
Hmm.
but
Did
I
you
had the My Number card from a long time ago. It's just that I hadn't registered it to use for health.
did you hear about the cover of the latest Economist? The Economist?
No, I did not.
Let me see if I can find it really quick here. It's calling Takaichi. Oh, here it is. Utu, come on. Here it is. The world's most powerful woman, they're calling her.
So I mean, the fact that she's got 2/3 of the lower house, that makes even like if you call Germany, let's just say Germany and Japan are sort of the same power as countries,
Mm,
she's got a lot more personally. She's got a lot more power because she's got control of the legislature. So
hmm,
in that
hmm,
sense, makes
hmm,
sense. And she's got it for at least until 2028, like July of 2028. So.
hmm, hmm. And as Tokyo Dan says, she's got sexy eyes. I was I read another article that said that she uses her eyes when she speaks to get her point across. So maybe he's right. Okay. Rich says Japan. Let me get rid of this thing here. Japan profit per employee $20,000 a year. U.S. is $80,000 a year. Before the wage disparity can be fixed, productivity needs to be fixed. This may be true, but with the hollowing out of the Japanese workforce and all this gig economy work, you'd think that they would have already made some kind of progress by now, don't you think? I mean, some people have been booted out of the corporate labor force by their recent policies. I could never. That's why I'm not an economist or a money guy, right?
Well, I think Japan is figuring out creative ways to do more with fewer people. So,
Hmm.
like, you've probably been to restaurants where robots have brought your food to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
You don't talk to a waiter or waitress. They might be running around doing various things that it's hard to automate, but you order on your tablet and a robot brings the food, and you pay on a terminal, so they can get away with a lot fewer people. And then there are uh, job websites where it's like 4 hours, 5,000 yen. Have you heard of it's? There's one website called Timey. Have you heard of it?
No.
So Timey, basically, all of their jobs are like one-offs, and it's like a couple of hours, and you don't need like it's very minimalistic registration. And so
Not
like
It's not
it
yummy. It's not yummy baito, is
no,
it?
I thought about that too, but apparently not. But it's like they don't have enough. They're short-staffed, and so they want like an extra warm body to be a server for 4 hours on Friday, and then you get 5,000 yen or whatever. And Timey, apparently they have 12 million people registered. So that's
Wow.
like 10% of the population. And a friend of mine is a restaurant consultant, and she said many restaurants wouldn't be able to function without having access to this job pool.
Huh. That's
So
interesting.
again,
That's
so
interesting.
instead of like car sharing or like Airbnb, it's like person sharing. But then people
Oh.
can do that, and then they're not tied down because people don't want to be tied down.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Daryl pipes in again. All Takaichi needs to do is grow GDP faster than debt increases. Easier said than done.
Oh, I was going to say,
Yeah.
oh, well, then now we know the answer, but easier said than
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting to the 90-minute mark here, a little bit
Okay,
past the 90-minute, but closer to the 100-minute mark.
sure.
Yeah, we had a couple of more. We had a couple of more topics that we wanted to discuss, but I think we'll just let them slide for today. And I want to say, well, AI. There's AI. It'll make a lot of
Yeah.
jobs going away, right? That's
But
for
people
sure
don't have
too.
the education skills to fill the jobs that remain. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. But I want to say thank you to everybody who came. Thank you for all the newcomers. I Right now we are scheduled to be back here again next week, Saturday, if everything goes well, which it should. I also would like to remind everybody that I am also live on Wednesday, Japan time. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I do that to make it easily available to people in the United States. So otherwise, this live stream hits America like 4 in the morning. So if I do it at 10 in the morning Japan time, it'll be like 8 in the evening or 7 in the evening in the US. But if you're free at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, stop by. Well, we'll be doing similar kind of thing, talking about news items. I'll be doing it solo for now. In the future, Carl may join me if I can, pull him in
Sure.
kicking and screaming, but
We got to talk.
yeah. Yeah. Hey, Carl, nice headphones you got there. It'd be a shame if something ever happened to them. But thanks a lot for coming, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. We only did 2 topics, but I felt I had a good time, and I hope all of you did too. So until
Sure.
next week or until Wednesday, we'll see you the next time. Thanks for coming, everybody.
See everybody. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.